We'll call this meeting to order. If you'd please rise with me for a silent invocation, followed by the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time is public input. Now is the time to hear from our community. We welcome your comments, which are very important to us. Please go to the podium when we're recognized and give your name for the record. Address your comments to the council as a whole, not as individuals. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. You may not donate your time to another speaker. We will not enter into a dialogue at this time. The purpose of this agenda item is for you, the public, to inform the council about your views. Have we got any public comment at this moment? Okay. Seeing none, we will go on to roll call. Councilmember Barnes did call me and told me that he may be running late. He was still working. And all the other council members are present. So can we get a motion to excuse Councilmember Barnes?
So moved.
Second.
And a first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Okay, now I will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
We got a first and second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. Now I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Got a first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. Current business. Approve facility use agreements for the 4th of July celebration.
Good evening. I'm Valerie, Parks and Rec Coordinator. We have the 4th of July celebration happening on the 4th of July. And this is an annual Independence Day celebration at the Lions Park. The event will feature a parade from 10 to 11 a.m., followed by children activities, live amplified music, sports tournaments, and various food, merchandise, informational booths, and game vendors throughout the day. Vendors will set up on Friday, July 3rd between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and that's by appointment only. That is decided by the committee because it'll work best for them. The committee has been informed that the city will not provide overnight security for vendor equipment that is left the night before to prepare for the event. Lions Park is also reserved from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. on the 4th of July. Public Works will provide 2 employee shifts, including 2 additional staff members requested by the committee to assist with barricades, electrical access, trash service, and maintenance of city-owned restrooms. The vendors will cease operations at 10 p.m. when the city-sponsored fireworks show begins. The chamber will be responsible for cleanup following the event. All vendors must coordinate with the chamber representative, meet city business license requirements, and obtain a city hall approval for any vehicle access within the park. According to attendance, the returning nonprofit organization event fee is $351.25. We have additional request fees that total $3,901 and a required damage deposit of $541.25. Staff does recommend that the City Council approve the facility use agreement between the City of Othello and the Chamber of Commerce for the 4th of July special event celebration.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
We got a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one so carries. Now with the facility use agreement for Fight for Mike.
Fight for Mike Charity Committee is a nonprofit organization. They are preparing for its annual 5K run to raise awareness for ALS. The run will begin and end at the City Hall. This is also on the 4th of July. The event organizers will utilize the same route that has been safely and successfully used in previous years. The participants are instructed to follow all applicable pedestrian traffic laws and safety regulations throughout the event. Setup is scheduled for the morning of 4th of July, and they will begin that at 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Traffic cones will be placed in the City Hall parking lot to restrict vehicles their access to the parking lot so that operations can continue. A sponsor will also be on site distributing complimentary items to the participants and attendees. Late registration will begin at 7 a.m. The run walk kickoff will begin at 8 a.m. and it concludes at 9:30 a.m., following immediately by cleanup and breakdown of the event. According to attendance, the returning nonprofit organization event fee is $143.25. There were no additional items requested for this event, and they also have a required damage deposit of $541.25. Staff does recommend that the city approve the facility use agreement between the City of Othello and Fight for Mike Charity Committee for the annual 5K charity run.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. Now the facility use agreement for All Cities Classic Spud Run.
The Othello chapter of the All Cities Classic Car Club is preparing for its annual Spud Run and Car Show. This will be held July 17th and 18th. Events include a slow drag race on Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. and a car show on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. As in previous years, the club is requesting to close Main Street from 4th to 7th Avenue during Friday's slow drag run. That will include amplified music using electrical outlets by the flagpole at the City Hall. Only cars registered for Saturday's show may participate. The club has coordinated with Public Works and the Police Department for cones and barricades. Vendors must coordinate with the car show representatives and follow the City of Othello business licensing requirements. Event reps must also work with the City Hall staff to ensure proper permits for vehicles in the park during vendor setup and teardown. According to the attendance, returning nonprofit event fee is $143.25. There were no additional items requested, and we have a required damage deposit of $541.25 for this event. The staff does also recommend that the City Council approve the Othello chapter of the All Cities Classic Car Club to use Main Street on July 17th and Kiwanis Park on July 18th for the car show.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carries. Now we have the collective bargaining agreements between the sergeants and the police officers.
Pay attention. So council approval is required for newly ratified collective bargaining agreements that we negotiated. Negotiations were conducted between Teamsters, the local union 760, who represents our police officers and police sergeants for the City of Othello. Negotiations worked towards a 3-year contract from 7/1/2026 to 12/31/2028. The new CBAs includes changes to the take-home car agreement, shift bidding, bereavement leave, specialty assignment time limits, and the new CBAs also provides a 7% wage increase for 2026. and no less than 4% for the next 2 remaining years. The negotiations were collective, and the attached should be, you guys should have the CBA, the ratified by the union members. And we'd like to move a form of motion, move to approve the 3-year contracts for our police officers and police sergeants.
I'll move to approve the 3-year contract with Local 760 for a time period of 2026 to 2028.
We got a first and second. Is there any further discussion?
I would like to make a request just for the next go around. I was on the committee, and so I kind of knew what to look for when I was looking at these. But I think it also might be helpful for council to get more of a red line version or to see what was previous and what is current so that it's easier for us to actually see the changes.
Yeah.
But I don't think we need that now before approval. Just in the future, I think that would have been easier.
Sure.
Instead of relying on my notes, and not everybody was on that committee to know even really what to look for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Proceed my comments by saying that I have a deep respect for our police department and think they do a good job. But this is a nice contract. If you read through it, they get their health and dental paid for, their insurance. They get paid vacation days and sick days. They get 12 paid holidays. They get to drive city vehicles to their residence. So it's a pretty lucrative contract in relation to contracts I've dealt with out in private industry. However, I'd like to focus on this 7%. The school teachers just negotiated a contract, and they're getting a 2.6% increase. And those people on Social Security this year got a 2.8% increase. So I think the 7% is way beyond the scope of what is reasonable. And I hate to set a precedence that our civil servants are getting more of an increase than the people they serve. So I am bothered by that 7%. I think that's very generous, and I'm not going to vote no, but I hope our staff and police officers realize that this is a nice increase, and I hope they appreciate what the taxpayers of this community are giving to them.
Okay, any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. Okay, at this time, we will open a public hearing related to ordinance 1649 and 1650. We will open this at 6:13. At this time, we will take staff presentation.
Thank you. So these are zoning items. There have been some changes in state law that affect zoning, and so we're addressing all of them at one time. So the changes that we're dealing with is one that requires us to allow conversion of existing buildings into housing. Another one that requires us to allow childcare in all residential and commercial zones as an outright permitted use. And then the third one is a little bit different. The state passed a law that people can establish a family burial ground on their property unless the local jurisdiction prohibits it. So that one is, I did that one as a separate ordinance, prohibiting it, pulling it out from the other one just to make it a little more clear. So that's why there are the two ordinances. One that deals with all the changes related to the existing buildings and housing and childcare, and then family burial grounds in a separate ordinance. So the changes being made are for the family burial grounds, just adding a line in our general standards of prohibited uses in all zones, saying that family burial grounds, as described in this new legislation, are prohibited within city limits. That one's a pretty simple one, just that one item. In the other ordinance, the changes are the childcare center definitions, matching those with the state law. Our definitions were a little old, and so they no longer match. So taking out the old one, adding new ones that match. In the residential zones, just changing some of the language to make it clear of what is allowed. Moving we already had some conditions for childcare centers, so just moving that to this new kind of all-inclusive childcare center. We had provisions before that we would notify when there was a childcare center. So the way it's written right now, that we would continue that notification, but make it clear that that is just a courtesy notification for the neighbors because we can't deny it. And then related to the existing housing or new housing in existing buildings, in a multifamily zone, we're required to allow 50% more units than our zoning would allow. So right now in the R3 zone, we allow 4 units per lot. So we have to allow that increase in density. Then in the commercial zones, kind of similar changes for childcare centers, just that new language. And then some changes to how we were regulating multifamily to make it more clear of a new use, new construction follows different rules, where conversion in existing buildings, we have to allow that. And then as part of that, we are designating Main Street, the full length, and First Avenue from Pine Street to Juniper as a major pedestrian corridor, and that allows us to prevent the conversion of ground floor commercial into residential in those areas. Otherwise, the state law would make us allow that conversion as well. And then in the design standards, we can't require design standards for the conversion of existing buildings to new housing. So adding that. In the parking chapter, again, we can't require parking for new housing in existing buildings. And then a section adding standards for childcare centers, because there were no standards for the parking requirement for that before. And then the last part is a new section in the building code chapter related to conversion of existing buildings to new housing. There are things that we can't require. We can't require energy code except under certain circumstances. Kind of goes on for a long time, but I tried to capture all of that into this new section. So that's kind of a brief summary. I worked with the city attorney on doing the language of the ordinance. We went back and forth a few times, so I think it should be pretty good now. We did publicize public hearings. Planning Commission held a hearing last week, and so the draft that you see is their recommendation. I don't believe I had any more comments, so I guess I would see if the council had any questions for me before we open for public testimony.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? So in the housing the existing building, when you go up 50%, so the example you gave is the R3, you can have 4.
Mhm.
Does that mean you can go up to 6?
You could go 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I was understanding that correctly. Thank you.
Is there any further questions, comments? Okay, at this time, 6:19, I will open up for public testimony. I will allow 3 minutes for each comment. I will be having 2 separate comment sections for each ordinance. We will start with ordinance number 1649, family burial grounds first. Is there anybody that would wish to speak at this time? Please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Yes, neutral or opposed?
Neutral.
Hi there, I'm Jake Mendez Jr., civil rights activist and ACLU Washington member and NAACP member as well. I'm neutral to the burial. I just wanted to say that we can't forget the culture, the nationality, and the heritage of those families, especially with Native cultures that bury families in their property. Now, I understand and respect the fact that it's not allowed within city limits and whatnot, but in certain areas where it is approved, we gotta not forget that. And we gotta respect the cultures, the heritage, and those of different nationalities and the native that they carry for centuries. This is something we can't discriminate against. This is something that we need to be more respectful towards. We got to respect their heritage, their culture, regardless of their ethnicity, their background, their heritage, their nationality, their native roots. There's different cultures. For example, people in Ghana, they've buried families in their property as well. In other ancient cultures, as well as natives and other nationalities that have buried their families in their property as well. So we just want to make sure you acknowledge that and respect that. And that's just what I wanted to bring up to make aware that we need to respect these cultures, these heritage, the nationalities of these people that are deep rooted and carry these heritage out of respect. Because this is the time where the age of our country, we got to respect that. And that's the reason why I wanted to come up here and speak on that. So we could at least acknowledge that and be aware of that. So that's why I wanted to address the city council to be aware of that as well. And to respect that culture's heritage of all those different nationalities and native roots that do bury their families in their property where it is allowed. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment on 1649?
Hi, I'm Dina Vitsky. I am just going to ask a question these guys are all thinking. So, do you have to go through a coroner? Or do you just bury them in the ground? Do you have to have a casket? Do you have to ashes or I don't know? Is there any?
The legislation was pretty lengthy, so I didn't study it all. I just know that we can prohibit it, and that was the direction that we wanted to go.
So this would just be city, the county, we could do it. Maybe.
Prohibits it as
Okay,
well.
okay. I was just curious. Thanks.
Any further public testimony on 1649? Okay, we will go to 1650. Is there any public input on 1650? Housing in existing buildings. And childcare, yes. Seeing none, we will close the public testimony portion now at 6:23. Is there any staff response to the comments?
No.
Okay, then at this time, we will close the public hearing at 6:24. Okay, at this time, we can take motion on the ordinances.
I will make a motion to adopt ordinance 1649 prohibiting family burial grounds and amending OMC 17.56.170.
We've got a first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. So I will entertain a motion for ordinance 1650.
I motion to adopt ordinance 1650 to comply with state law relating to new housing and existing buildings and zoning for childcare by amending OMC 17.09, 17.20, 17.30, 17.61, and 14.04.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. Next on the agenda is a presentation on, from the developers on the Broadway and Curtis roundabout.
Thank you. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council and staff. I wanted to start out by letting you guys know I have a speech impediment, so I'm not having a heart attack. It's just my Monday. So I'm going to get started here. My name is Terriella Petrie. I'm with HLA Engineering out of Yakima. I'm here with my co-worker who's an engineer as well, Chris Cuevas. We have been working on a roundabout for a private developer at the intersection of SR 24 and Curtis Drive. Now, we were originally hired to look at either a traffic light or a roundabout. And after speaking with the Washington State Department of Transportation, WashDOT, they told us their preferred method of intersection control is always a roundabout now. And the reason that is because it's been proven that roundabouts move more traffic than a traffic light. And the accidents that happen at roundabouts are way less severe than the accidents that happen at a traffic light. You hardly ever have rear end accidents, and you never have head-ons at roundabouts because you're going in a circle. So what we have here is a roundabout design that has been vetted by both the city engineering and planning staff, as well as WashDOT. We have been working on the approval for the past 9 months. It's a slow process getting through WashDOT's review process. It is both local and at the state level at WashDOT. But they have approved what you see here. And right now, the plan is to construct this roundabout. We won't be building it this year, mostly because the time we would be building it is when you have harvest, and the developer realizes how big of a deal that is to your community, and he hasn't started building his building yet. So we will be constructing this starting in the spring. Now, if we have a winter like we've had the last 2 years, they may want to start this work in January or February. But if it's a typical winter where we have snow and cold weather, they probably won't start until March or April. That's the current plan. Now, DOT has approved what we have here, but we've also had the issue of what do we do with traffic during construction. We considered having a detour, but there's really no convenient detour route. So what we came up with is a 3-stage paved construction project if you would flip the next slide, where phase one would utilize. There you go. Phase one of the project would utilize the developer's property for one of the travel lanes. In this case, the northbound direction, and we would build all of what is shown there in the pink. And then on phase two, we'd actually utilize one of the lanes that we just built, as well as the route through the developer's property, and build the west side of the roundabout. That would basically build all of the roundabout, except on phase three, we'd have the work on Curtis Drive, and then the right in, right out that's not highlighted on the right edge of that sheet out of the property. That would be a right in, right out. So we had a public meeting earlier. We had 12 to 15 people there. You either love roundabouts or you hate roundabouts. And we heard both. So the major item that we got out of that meeting earlier is they asked if we would pay farther back on Tech Street, so when the trucks take off, they won't spin their wheels when they're trying to find a gap in the traffic. So it was a useful meeting. We're from Yakima. We work with the ag community on a lot of our projects, and we understand and appreciate their concerns. That's about all I have, unless you guys have any specific questions about our work or the future roundabout.
Yeah, I attended the meeting, and one of the things that kind of struck me was the realization that people would try to bypass this area, and that the infrastructure around that could be problematic for that. Roosevelt Street in particular was mentioned as a possible bypass that people might use. And it got me wondering, one of the first things I wondered was, is there any improvements we should consider for those around that area for that eventuality, and how people trying to bypass might impact the surrounding area, dust, for example, being a major thing. The other item that kind of popped out in my head is this area is going to have a lot more traffic, and with that, a lot more opportunity. And I hope we as a city recognize that, and by recognizing that, make some considerations to maximize those opportunities in those areas and investment into this area to utilize that increased traffic. It's for the good of us, it's for the good of that area. And it's pretty tough to drive around there if you haven't taken a drive or two. And it's tough at certain times of days to try to make a left turn getting onto Broadway. I think there's some things we should consider in the future for this area and to maximize this opportunity.
Okay. Speaking of the left turn, WashDOT no longer wants to allow a left turn into or out of Tech Street.
Right.
They can utilize a roundabout. It's probably quicker and a lot safer than trying to find a hole in traffic. Any other questions, comments?
My question is for Ann.
So when the city was looking at this, I know it's a state deal, but are we going to be paving Curtis Street or Industrial Lane in the future?
The developer is paving Curtis the depth of their property.
I see that, but that's what, a couple hundred feet? Because my concern is all the gravel, and then you got the trucks that are going to be unloaded into storage, and they're going to use a roundabout. And I know in the past, the city's been concerned when people want to put any businesses, you know, even a coffee stand, they tell them to pave it to control the gravel that's going to go into the street. So right here is a big issue because you have Curtis Street and then Industrial Lane is all gravel. So you have a couple hundred feet, just kind of looking at that property, because I used to own property next to it. You have probably a couple hundred feet going to the east of paved road, right? So I don't know if that's enough to shake the rock off your tire treads. But, you know, like Councilman Doro was saying, I mean, if we're going to do something like this, might as well improve for the future. Because I see even the people from John Deere, instead of stopping there at, what's that street there at John Deere? Kind of spaced out.
I can't think of it either.
They're going to come down Industrial Lane, down Curtis, use a roundabout, just so they don't stop. If they don't stop if they're going south.
Same thing with
So it is going to
Roosevelt.
be used.
Yep.
It is going to be a very used roundabout.
Mhm.
So that's my concern. Has the city looked into paving
Any of these?
Curtis and Industrial Lane for the future? And it'd have to be city standards.
Oh, go ahead.
Robin, do you want to jump in at all?
Sure. So Roosevelt, Canning, all of this side streets and Curtis and Industrial Way, they are on our 6-year plan that will come before council at the next meeting for a public hearing. And they are all due for upgrades. Again, it's an expensive project to get those paved.
Yep.
So, but they are part of our TIB, so they are on the horizon.
Well, I'd like to, go ahead.
What's going to be the city's financial contribution to this project?
So this particular project, this roundabout, the
Yes.
paving of Curtis, it is not on us, it's on the developer. We just wanted it to come before council so that the city is aware of what is being planned.
You know, I like that.
Well, I like it. I mean, I don't know where it sits as far as finishing Curtis and Industrial, but in that 6 year, if it can be moved forward, I don't know what's before it. Maybe it's more important. But if it could be moved forward, it'd be better because that is going to be a very busy intersection. And paving that would be ideal.
Put those as the priority if possible. The ones around that roundabout, all the roads that lead up to that roundabout, is that what you're saying?
Well, Curtis runs east and then Industrial runs
Yeah.
north.
I like it too. I think it's a really good idea. I think it helps the area too.
These will all be budget issues that will eventually come back to you, the council.
Yep.
And we're reviewing this in the 6-year plan for roads next meeting, correct?
We'll have a streets committee meeting between here and the next meeting so that we can go over it with our streets committee and then it will come to council.
So then we set those priorities based on all the things we get presented
Yeah.
to us. So I'm sure we'll put adequate consideration on all this, I'm sure.
Any further questions on this proposed roundabout? Good, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will move on to the fire annexation presentation. Aaron, and I believe we have Liz online, also Bob.
Good evening, everybody. So if we all remember last council meeting, I gave the council an update on the fire annexation. I gave you guys sort of a timeline, what has been conducted, different meetings that we have had, And I also mentioned that part of trying to ensure the success of annexation, Liz Loomis has been consulted to run the messaging strategy and messaging campaign for the annexation process. And if you do recall our last meeting, I also covered a certain option that we might have concerning annexation, and it did bring up a lot of questions from the council. And one of the requests from council was, can we have Liz here to ask her questions ourselves? I've reached out to her and she's made herself available. So she is online right now for the council to ask questions. Any question that you might have. Thank you.
Go right to questions.
Hi there.
Liz, okay.
Can-
You could just start asking.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm a little confused as to how this works. Can I start my video so people can see me?
Yes, you
Good.
can.
It says I cannot start my video because it is disabled by the host.
Okay, they're working on that.
Okay. Also, Chief or former Chief Bob Eastman is here. I know the council probably has some questions about finances and how all of that works. So I want to make sure both of us have equal time and the council has enough time to ask questions. Let me see if I can put my video on. Perfect. All right. Sorry, see, I actually put makeup on for this meeting, so I didn't want to let me just turn the overhead light
Where's
off. All right. Well, can you let Bob in too to the meeting? He and I have been texting, so I know he's on as well. All right, so you can work on that, Bob, if you can hear me, they're working on it. All right, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. There he is. Thank you so much for having me this evening. My name is Liz Loomis, and I have a consulting firm that works with local governments to help improve communication with taxpayers. So we've been in business almost 30 years. Predominantly what we do are ballot measures involving revenue increases or annexations. About 65% of our clients are in the fire and EMS industry. So it's a pleasure to kind of chat with you tonight. I'm also delighted to have former Bob, I don't know whether to call you former, retired. So Chief Bob Eastman and I have worked together on projects for the past, on and off on projects for the past 20 years as he moved between different fire agencies as well. And so both of us have a lot of experience in this area. We realize how important it is for the city of Othello to protect the level and quality of emergency services that its residents are receiving, and are delighted, frankly, that the city council is looking towards annexation as a way to protect that. Excuse me. So what I would like to do, I put together, I just call it a cheat sheet of all the projects that I have done when it comes to cities annexing to fire agencies. And so I would like to share my screen and be able to walk you through this. Now, there are a lot of choices that the council has to make, right? So when annexation occurs, you can choose to retain all, some, or none of the taxes that you've been collecting and putting towards that fire service contract. Now, I am not a numbers woman. I'm a words woman. That's how I make my living. And so Chief Eastman understands all the technical issues associated with that. So I'll let him address that. But Tanya, if I can share, let me see. Oh, wait. Uh-oh, that's not what I wanted to hit. Share.
Thank you, Tanya. You are wonderful. Tell everyone there you deserve an amazing raise to be able to make this work. Excuse me.
7%.
Okay. So I picked out 5 examples. God, it's so bloody dark in here. I picked out 5 examples of projects that I've done. 4 of these I did with Bob. One I did independently, and he was sorely missed. Let me tell you that. Um, so the only one I didn't do with Bob was the city of Arlington. The city annexed to a fire authority called North County Fire EMS. And ironically, that's where, Bob, I think you got your start in the fire service. So this is a different one than the other 4 we are going to talk about. So the city of Arlington had its own fire department, okay? And they annexed to the fire authority. Now, what they did in this case, they reduced their general property tax levy by approximately 1.75 million. Now, this was not the entire cost of their independent fire department. Okay? Wait. Yes, that's correct. So they ended up retaining that money for police, parks, streets. They have their own court and jail system. And they also funded some administrative services based on the money they held back. The financial details for this annexation, more than half of the property owners saved or paid the same amount of money. 28% paid about $60 more per year, and 18% paid more than that. So that these are all options that I wanted to share with you. Also, I need to say the caveat that all these cities were collecting EMS levies. And so at the point annexation happened, they stopped collecting EMS levies, and then the EMS levy was paid directly to a fire authority, right? Arlington had an ambulance utility fee that people hated. It was a monthly charge on their utility bills. And this really helped this project gain momentum because people were so upset about having to pay this fee. So Arlington actually passed, I think, with like 92% of the vote. All right, let's keep going here. Mill Creek, very interesting. Mill Creek chose to give back all of the money. Now, Mill Creek contracted with South County Fire, of which Chief Eastman was the former chief. So they contracted with South County Fire, and they chose to give back the entire amount of what they were spending on the contract. So that's an option for the council to consider, of course. This was back in 2022, so 4 years ago. The net increase you can see to property owners, and at the time, a 2,000 square foot home was valued at $602,000 in the city of Mill Creek, and the net increase was about $380 a year. Okay. Now, Mount Lake Terrace, very interesting project. The fire services contract that they had with South County Fire, the fire portion was 1.744 million. The city chose to reduce its general property tax levy collection by 1.694. I mean, you can see the numbers, right? And the priority for the Mount Lake Terrace City Council was helping residents with high utility bills. So we were coming out of COVID at that time. People were really having a hard time with certain expenses. And so the priority for the city council in Mount Lake Terrace was utility bills. Okay. And based on what they gave back, the net increase was about $395 per year. So Breyer and Edmonds are are interesting. So Mount Lake Terrace and Breyer were ran during the same election. Excuse me. And here's, here it goes. And what's so interesting about this is you can see how the economy has changed and how cities are needing additional revenue just to maintain basic city services, right? So way back when it was like, oh, okay, we'll give everything back. Oh, we'll give something back. But fast forward to modern times with inflation and cost increases and a difficult economy, and you can see harder decisions being made by city councils. And the city of Breyer is one. So the city of Breyer, prior to the election, had a measure on the ballot to fund its police department. Residents wanted their own police department. That was a very high priority for them. Well, increasing costs for the fire service contract was making that very difficult to fund that service. So they made the decision, the council made the difficult decision to retain all of the money, right? So the fire services contract was approximately 37 cents per thousand. That's what the equivalent of it was. So the net increase to property owners, Breyer is quite a wealthy community in Snohomish County, was about, $960 per year. And this is the average, right? So many people paid more, some people paid less. But they used that money for police, and they also used some of the money for city administration costs. And here's the thing that breaks my heart. I used to be a mayor, I used to be a city council member, and taxpayers just don't want to fund city administrative services. And it's so necessary. It's so necessary to have those people on the desk when someone comes in to make, say, a utility bill payment. It's so necessary to have support for planning and development. So, and it was interesting to hear your public hearing tonight. It's so important to have those people in place to provide these kind of core services that people don't know about. And these are people behind the scenes who, in my opinion, are kind of the unsung heroes of city government, right? So, but a lot of people say, oh my God, you're putting money towards administrative positions, government's so bloated, that kind of thing. I disagree. Okay, now Mr. Mayor, I'm getting off my high horse. I will continue. So that was Breyer. Edmonds was the most recent project we did. Edmonds also chose to retain the entire amount that it was paying for the fire service contract. They used this money for a variety of city services. They were transparent in listing what all the money would go to, including some administrative expenses, but parks, police, planning and development, right? It's very important in Edmonds that people have their views of Puget Sound. So they wanted to make sure they had adequate funding to maintain planning standards, zoning standards, that kind of thing. So the net increase to property owners in Edmonds was the highest amount, right? And that was what? Just over $1,100 per year for fire and EMS. So these are options that the city can consider. I know that I know Othello, it doesn't matter how big you are. I know the city of Othello is likely experiencing a crunch when it comes to funding. Inflation, cost to provide services, they keep going up and up. We probably about 12% of our client load right now are cities in the Pacific Northwest who are facing similar challenges. And they're running excess levies for police and parks. They're running general property tax levies for general city services, that kind of thing. So I appreciate the thought that's going to go into this. I believe strongly that you need to ask for what you need. I trust voters to make the right decision about whether that's a way forward that they want you to pursue. So what questions do you have for me? And I'll stop sharing this.
Question.
Good God.
Well, so the 5 examples all included EMS, correct?
Well, yes, but I did not include EMS in the figures. Because the cities in those situations, the cities collected a separate EMS levy. I just included the cost for the fire service contract because I am aware that you contract with, or you don't contract, but your property owners pay a levy to, is it Public Hospital District Number 3?
So this annexation will not include EMS funding, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because most of my questions to start with, as exciting as the bright, shiny object of funding is, I'm actually more concerned about the annexation agreement. So the makeup pre-board versus post-board of the annexation is one of the questions I have.
Yeah,
how does that look and what does that turn into?
That's way above my pay grade. No, actually, it's not. I make a good living. Let me rephrase that. But the annexation agreement is something negotiated between the city, the fire district, and attorneys. Bob, do you remember the details on that? We did receive copies of the pre-annexation agreement, but council member, I couldn't comment one way or the other on that.
So I can speak to it a little bit, not as far as the negotiations. I haven't been part of the conversation between the fire district and the city, but I know the way the pre-annexation agreement was drafted was due to some of the statutory limitations that exist. For example, for the fire district to go from 3 commissioners to 5 commissioners, it takes a vote. They got to go to ballot. And so there's some timing things in there. And so, Councilman, I'm not sure what your questions are specifically.
My question, I understand that pre-annexation, you have to go through a process. You will have to keep the current board intact to put the new board into place. My question is post-annexation, what is going to be the makeup of the board and how are those people allocated onto that board? Are there going to be people retained? Or is it going to be through district? We were told it was at large and there was an RCW that required it. So I'd like to know what that RCW is so I can review that or have it reviewed.
So I don't have the RCW off the top of my head, but I'm sure we can get you the RCW. It's I don't have it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. Council member, again, this is something that has to be negotiated between the city and the fire district and their attorneys, right? So my role is to educate the public about the potential annexation. Bob is an advisor on the financial issues associated with it. So I don't not want to answer your question. I'm just saying we are not the people to provide you with that. Okay.
So I have a different question then. Annexation taxation that we're going to go through.
Yeah.
We should be thinking of that not as a replacement tax, but a completely independent tax. And the other thing we're talking about is different. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, it could replace part of the taxes people pay, right? So currently the city pays the fire district through its general fund, right? And property owners in the city pay the city their general property tax levy taxes. Then the city more or less cuts a check to the fire district for fire services, right? So what would happen in this case, if annexation were approved, property owners in the city would simply pay the fire district directly for fire and rescue services. That's how that works.
So then it's that tax. So that's a completely different tax. We're talking about retaining what was paid before for these other services.
Yes, well, that's what I need to know from the council to be able to move this project forward. Do you want to give back? So you collect a general property tax levy, and out of that, a portion is paid to the fire district for service. The city has the option to reduce its general property tax levy by that same amount, right? Or it could keep some of that money back or keep all of that money back, right? And those are the options to you. Nothing has been decided. That's why Bob and I are here. And Bob, is this a good opportunity for you to get into kind of the finance stuff associated with it?
Actually, I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
And it's important because I don't understand with what has just been explained, why the retention portion does not need voter approval. Yes, no.
Correct.
The annexation would be voted on. The
Correct.
retention would be voted on as well?
No,
No, I didn't think
that's a council decision.
that's what I thought.
Okay.
But it is as a selling point for the annexation as we move forward, because we need to be upfront with the public 100% what our intentions are. It's already going to cost them an estimated 25 cents per thousand already.
Well,
And-
no, it'll be 90 cents
Well,
per
90
thousand.
cents total.
Because it's
Depend-
completely
depending-
separate.
Yeah.
That's if we
depending
make it a
what-
replacement
yeah.
tax.
We're not, that's if
Depending
we
what
retain the
we
whole
do.
thing. We're not. I
No,
don't
we're
think we
not.
want to do that.
We have the option to give back the community 65 cents of that. So that's where we are at the moment to move forward, because we want to let the public know completely. If we want to turn back the 65 cents, basically the city's property tax will, what they pay currently to the public right now will be 65 cents less per thousand. But again, it goes to the county, which will be collecting 90.
So
We will be
65 cents less to us from the property taxpayers, but then it goes to that 90 to the fire district. So it just
Bob,
doesn't come to us.
Hang on a second, folks. This is why Bob's on this call. Like
So, so the original,
explain how it works.
so the original question, Councilman, and I'm sorry, I can't see names, but you are correct. How
That's what I
your
thought.
understanding is right. By virtue of this of going to ballot and asking the citizens to annex into Adams 5, they are now going to pay for fire service independent. Currently, the fire levy is 90 cents, and they would be adding a tax burden on their property tax of 90 cents to cover fire services, right? They'd be paying independent, not through the city. So that's what the vote does. But as everybody knows, politics is never just one thing. And so from my experience, the question that the city will then be asked, if you go to, once you do the resolution, put it on ballot, somebody of your residency will say, all right, you were paying 65 cents equivalent to the fire district. You no longer need to do that because we're going to pay directly to the fire district. So now what's the city going to do with those extra funds? So the city will have to answer the question one way or the other. You just have lots of options with what you choose to do. And my experience is I've had cities not retain all of it, and I've had cities reduce what they collect by what they were paying for fire service, and it becomes a city council conversation, a decision made by the council. But I can tell you, in all the annexations I've done, it's been the number one question. It's not fire service costs more money. People understood it. The four cities that annexed into South County Fire were in the very similar scenario as Adams. They were contract agencies. The contracts weren't keeping up with the cost of fire service. Just it's the nature of what they do. The citizens had a mill rate that was higher than the equivalent mill rate in the contract. So the cities that Liz showed you annexing into South County Fire, a lot of the conversation that we had was very similar to the conversation the city of Othello and the fire district have been having because it's the same reason we got to the same place. So you do understand by the citizens voting to annex, they're agreeing that the fire district is going to levy a general levy, and they will have to pay that at the end of the day. So you are correct, just to make sure you understand it correctly.
Can I put some figures in here? Right now, their city cost per thousand that shows up on my tax form is I'm paying $2.21 per thousand to the city, which for my house comes out to $1,000. In the 25 years I've lived in Othello, there's never been a line out item for fire department. As has been stated here, it comes out of the general fund. So now, if we annex, this is my understanding, there's going to be a separate line. I'm going to pay $2.21 to the city per thousand, but there's going to be a new line item that says I'm going to pay 90 cents per thousand for fire district protection. That is an equivalent of a $406 increase on my house. Now, so the question is, and this give back stuff, so what that means, if the city does not have to pay the fire department, they're stuck on this 65 cents, it's more 90 cents now. If 65 cents on the total valuation of the city that goes into the general fund, that's a windfall to the city of $845,000. So I guess that's what they're talking about, the give back, whether we reduce this 221, 65 cents or 30 cents or however you want to reduce that. And I don't know why it's called a give back. To me, it's a tax increase. I'm paying $406 more. So that's my understanding of this situation. And some of this is I don't get it as the sheet we were given. It says city reduces general property tax. This is under Mountain Terrace by 1.7 million. But then it says net increase to property owners was $395. So I don't get how you
That was money in
reduce
their
general
pocket.
property tax and then have a net increase of $395 a year to the property owner.
395.
Those were costs for fire and EMS. Okay, that's not,
That's why.
yeah, the net increase to the city, right? So this is what property owners in these cities ended up paying for fire and EMS, right? Not what the city ended up holding back. But council member, you did a great job in frankly explaining that very succinctly, right? You have the options of reducing the city's property tax levy by the 90 cents you're currently paying for fire service. You could do that. Right? You could reduce it by 45 cents. You could not reduce it at all. I would not recommend that considering what I know about voter demographics for the city of Othello. But you have a lot of options. And also, in my opinion, based on what I know with cities dealing with tighter and tighter and tighter budgets, it's an exciting conversation to have with your community. Right? What do they want to fund? I mean, like police, we talked about the police contract tonight, a 7% increase. Good for them. I'm not going to begrudge them that at all, right? But it costs money. It costs money to have your own police department, court system, your parks, your pool. You definitely have a lot of competing needs. And this could be an opportunity to fund those needs if the council agrees, and obviously go through the public process. We will engage with the public, right? But it's up to you to decide. I mean, the world's your oyster here.
The other thing we discussed is if we do the 90 cents per thousand, the separate line item and don't reduce the overall, what I'm paying to the city now from the 221.65, then that extra money is added to the tax bill to the taxpayers, and that could potentially jeopardize the annexation.
Well, so this is really like tomato, okay? City property owners are paying $221 per thousand, right? So that amount's not going to change. What's going to change is the amount, unless you choose to reduce it, right? What's going to change is they're going to have a tax bill to the fire district. They're not going to pay more money to the city. Did I understand what you were saying?
I agree,
Essentially the same.
100%. It's coming out of my pocket. I don't care if I pay it to the fire district
I know.
or the city. That's $400 more out of my pocket.
Yes, sir.
So,
To protect the level and quality of emergency services that people require.
no.
Right.
No.
This is where it gets mixed up, because if you windfall the city, I'll pay the fire department 90 cents. That provides me fire protection. But if I don't reduce my city tax bill from that 221.65, that's a windfall for the city. That has nothing to do with fire protection.
Okay, all right, I see
It's
what
that
you're
to their
saying.
general fund.
Yeah.
But we have the option to drop that line item to the city down to $1.56 or whatever the math would be, right? So you'd have your 89.9 for fire, but we could drop it all the way down to
if we only
156.
drop it 30 cents, that jeopardizes annexation, because people are going to figure out their tax bill is going to be higher because I'm going to tell them.
Well, their tax
I
bill is
don't-
going to be higher by 25 cents, even
Yeah.
if we give them all the 65
The
back.
65 back.
I want to address the idea that it jeopardizes annexation. We have 3 examples that I provided to you where it didn't jeopardize annexation because city residents wanted better police, parks, streets, roads, courts, jails, whatever. So it didn't jeopardize annexation. And I'm not saying that's not a risk, right? That is a risk, but that's where the public process, the deliberation by council, including the public in these conversations, like we have an opportunity to fund city services, city priorities, right? So I don't, please don't think that holding money back is going to jeopardize the annexation vote. Okay?
We'll
It's
agree
up
to
to you
disagree.
to decide.
We'll agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah, I also have the same problem.
It's additional tax.
I personally am not comfortable holding public safety hostage to deliver separate projects and services. That personally bothers me, that I understand we should consider all options, but the reality is probably the city of Othello needs to should pass their annexation separately and then consider a lid lift to pay for these services and make them separate.
You
Not
can do that.
exactly. And I mean, to me, that seems more genuine.
So a lid lift to add on to the 221 that I'm paying now?
No, we'd drop it to 156
Drop
and
it.
then do a lid lift.
Yeah. Then
Drop
it can be
65
voted.
cents and then
And
vote
and
on
instead
that.
of making it a decision of us,
Right.
make it a decision of
The
the people.
people.
Make sure we are doing what the people want of us. And I think we also have to get honest about what was before, because we're talking about 65 cents, but that is not an accurate number. Because
Correct.
while we were doing 65 cents, we're also buying equipment, supplying equipment. So our
Correct.
number was a lot higher
Right,
than that number.
true.
But in the same vein, it just, like I said, it's squishy. And I would much rather go to the city with 2 proposals to address our projects and services than lump them together at, like I said, the potential of holding public safety hostage. I'm not comfortable
I think
with
that's a
that.
great idea.
I like it.
Two ballot measures on the same ballot.
I don't know if I do it on the same ballot, but definitely.
Well,
Why not?
Why not?
I would put it on the same ballot. That's part of what we do, right? Is advice on stuff like this. I would put them both on the same ballot.
You're more of an expert than I am if you think that would pass.
Well, I don't know. You're elected and I'm not.
It would be a
Redheaded
three-step,
stepchild.
it would be a three-step process. One, you'd have to approve the annexation.
Yeah.
Two, you'd have to reduce this 221 by 90 cents.
Correct.
And
Three, you go to the voters and say 221
These
minus
services.
90, how much do you want to add to that?
Mhm.
for
You're gonna drop it by
police or
90
the pool
cents?
Or whatever.
You're gonna drop it by 90 cents. That
I think
221.
it would
drop
have
by
to be
90 cents?
65.
For 65.
65, yeah.
90, I mean, that's what I'm paying extra, 90 cents. That's what my tax bill is going to say, fire protection, 90 cents per thousand.
I think we ought to have a lot more debate on this before. But
I do like that idea, though.
Hey, Bob, do you want to? I feel like I'm kind of monopolizing the conversation.
So this is exactly the conversation I was hoping that the council would have. You're on 100% the right track. There's some other things that as you guys continue to discuss, we've talked with staff on some of the other things that go along on the backside with it that will help weigh into your decision. But what you're doing, and I'm gonna say this, you're way ahead of all the cities that annexed into South County Fire, right? They all waited to the very, very last minute to have this conversation. Because there's 7 people on the council and everybody's going to have a little bit different view. And where this gets really complex and I'll speak to, you can say it's Edmonds, Montlake Terrace, Briar, or Mill Creek. It doesn't matter. They were all the same. The cost for fire service in every one of those cities was more than what they were paying under the contract. So in every one of the cities that annexed into South County Fire, they all paid more for fire service. We all told them that because they were paying, 50 cents on the dollar to 75 cents on the dollar, equivalent to what the unincorporated residents were paying for fire service. Where the dollars and cents got weird is the fire service cost in the scenarios that Liz showed you were about $300 to $400 for fire service increase. When you saw Edmonds at $1,000 and you saw Briar at $1,000 increase, part of that increase was because the city retained funds, and they weren't using those funds for fire and EMS anymore. Fire and EMS went up a certain percentage, but they kept money to pay for other services that weren't fire and EMS. So the fact that you guys are having this conversation, you understand it, I think, better than you think you do. And I would encourage the continued conversation. And I will say this, the sooner the city council comes to consensus, the better it is, in my opinion, across the board. It makes the educating the public on what they're actually voting on. What does it mean when they make the vote? What does it mean for what they pay in taxes? What doesn't it mean? And those kind of pieces. And everybody will have a different view of how they want that said. But you should be proud of yourselves for sitting and having the dialogue you just had tonight, because there's a lot of cities that I've worked with that took 6-8 months to have that conversation. So congratulations on the council. You guys have a much better understanding of it than I think you do.
Yeah. And I also want to emphasize, right, knowing the direction of the council is going to be important for my team to do its job, right? And I agree with Bob. You guys are way ahead of the curve. Usually he calls me like 6 months before ballots drop and he's like, "Hey, Liz, we got a project." And I'm like, "No, you guys are so far advanced compared to other cities we've worked with." I am intrigued by the 2 ballot measure proposal. Which council member said that? The gentleman in the purple
That's
shirt.
me, Doro, Chris.
I like
Yeah. council member. I'm really intrigued by that. I mean, again, you have to ask your attorney, could we do
Right.
an annexation and then a general levy increase on the same
Mhm.
ballot? I think we probably.
There's a reason for that, and I would like to explain that.
Yes, sir.
Because with the start of a new administration, we made a commitment to transparency. And when I first heard this, I found this threatening that transparency. So the two ballot measures is actually, I think, a better compromise to maintain public transparency and what we're trying to do. So I think that requires us to reach out and be public advocates, but it also answers to the public. And that was a mandate that came with the changes in administration. So I just felt it was a better focus.
Yeah, and my company too, we are accountable, we are transparent, we don't do shell games. You know, I've been in this business for 25, 30 years, right? And you don't stay in this business. Like I said before, I believe in voters, right? I think they're smart and they can determine what's in their best interest, economy-wise or city-wise, whatever, in good times and bad. So Bob had something to talk about with regard to bank capacity. Do you want to address that now, Bob, or do you want to just wait?
No, I think I'd wait
Okay.
and when they get to a place that their staff has an understanding of it and talk about it at a time where it is more appropriate.
Well, I love the idea of two ballot measures. And honestly, council member, maybe I should offer you a job because I never thought of doing that for any other project.
I got too many other job offers right now, actually.
I actually think it's a really good idea too, because I think we give the voters a voice.
Yes.
I will,
but I want-
however, say that
What?
I don't think that not doing it that way, if we eventually opt not to do it that way, is not being transparent. I think we're having these conversations early and often, and we are here having that conversation not for the first time and not planning to make a decision today. And I think that is being very transparent with the public. We are not trying to hide any of the things that we are considering or options that we have. We're giving ample time for them to watch video back and come to us and come to meetings and make statements about it. So I don't think we're being not transparent, even if we don't end up doing two ballot measures. However, I think two ballot measures is a great idea.
On the same ballot.
I'm all for it.
The education gets out there
Yes,
the
we
right
already know
way.
that.
Two ballots could run together. We just.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
gotta-
and it's cheaper
Place on
that
the
way
bank
too.
capacity for to do it too.
Yeah.
It's
We had to
cheaper
review
that
all
way
that for the
too.
police. We're there.
Because
Yeah.
you're already paying election costs. So having two measures on the city ballot, it's less expensive. Can you all like get in a bus and come to the west side and help Bob and me?
Well,
We do it too many times
we are more
already.
reasonable over here.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I agree. All right. Aaron?
If we add this 90 cents on the annexation, can the city council reduce that 221, the general tax by 90 cents?
65, I
Or
think.
65. 65 would be a really, I think
65.
65,
Take a ballot or vote of the people.
it does not.
We
do that on our own.
decide to give them back that 65.
That's why I
that
asked
we
all the
were
questions about
earmarking there.
what the independent tax was and what wasn't.
Mhm.
Well, you understand that if my city tax now, you reduce it by 65 cents and add 90 cents for fire protection, that's still an increase in my taxes.
Correct.
25
By
cents.
25
Councilman
cents.
Spore, I will challenge this. One of the other reasons why I'm concerned about the makeup of our board is I will hope that the amount of money taken in is recognized at how much that is for our fire department and what their budget is. We know what their budget is, they were presented to us. They're always between 1.1 and 1.3 million. They're going to be taking a significantly higher amount once they pass annexation. I would hope the board members who are elected into that position will show fiscal responsibility and reduce that tax burden. That would make sense to me. That's what I would love. I mean, that's who I'm going to vote for, is people
Right.
who are going to do reasonable things with our money, like I think we need to do.
I
Right.
agree, but if a ladder truck costs $2 million, they're gonna want the 90 cents per thousand.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, we were paying more than the 65 cents because it was 65 cents plus the cost of the vehicles we had to buy.
In every situation, business-wise, municipality-wise, NGO, pick one. When everyone always wants more money, but when you set a budget, it's amazing how often they make it work.
Okay. Any other questions for Bob and me? And please keep in mind that we're here through this process, right? So anything you need. And also we have a communications committee that meets once a month. We're meeting on Wednesday to talk about communication projects, right? And specifically how we're informing the public in both the city and the fire district about what the city and fire district are discussing. We realize that annexation is not a done deal. We realize it's an intensive process and lots of details, unfortunately involving attorneys. If you have one there in the audience, I apologize. But it's necessary. Again, I mean, our goal, Bob and me, our goal is to make sure that the quality and level of emergency services between the fire district and the city is equal at all times. And we think annexation, I believe personally, annexation is the way to do that. So I love, who said here, here? Was that you in the purple shirt again, council member? I appreciate that. All right.
One last question.
Yes.
I approved a check for $3,000 to somebody that's gonna send out informational pamphlets or letters or something. Did that go to you?
No. Excuse me. So we do a newsletter for the fire district, right? And well, it's more like a letter from the fire chief to all households. By law in Washington state, you have to mail any communication a local government does to all households. And so that $3,000, I don't know exactly what it was, it went to the mail house to print and mail the letter.
Who's
And
writing the letter?
Who's
Who's producing, editing the letter?
No, you're not paying me. The fire district is paying all my costs. You paid the expenses associated with printing and mailing that letter to all households in the city.
And the fire district is responsible for the contents of that letter?
I write the content. You, the city and the fire district jointly approve the content. But my work is being paid for by the fire district, my team.
Well, I wrote a $3,000 check to somebody, so I'm paying half of it.
It's postage.
That's postage and printing, council member.
Yeah.
If you want to rewrite it, I'd love to deposit it, but
No, I'm just trying to follow the money here.
The annexation agreement.
So is that, we're not gonna get that letter till the council decides what to do with?
No, sir. You will get the letter after the July 4th holiday. So we scheduled that letter to fall after July 4th because we didn't want the message that we're sharing to conflict with, say, vacations and firework issues.
Right. Okay.
250.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. You're going to write another check too. I just want you to know.
Not going to like it. I'll warn you up front.
Well, this time, instead of the printer and mail house, maybe you could just put it on my name, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Great. Aaron, what else? What else is on your mind? Mr. Mayor, you too.
I don't have anything else. I just want to say thank you to you, Liz, and you, Bob, for being available here. I can only echo what you guys have just said. This has been really great conversation. I don't have anything else for you unless
Okay.
you guys have something final. Other
Nope,
than that, we
we-
can move forward.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the council knows we can have as many conversations as you want. And like Bob said, you are so ahead of the curve. You guys are amazing. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you.
For attending tonight.
Of course, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Is there any further questions or comments for him? Okay, then we will go on to considering a city ordinance for e-bikes. Chief McFarland.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to talk last council meeting. We kind of brought it up briefly, but I wanted to kind of do a more in-depth information about e-bikes and e-motorcycles, which have become increasingly more popular throughout the city. And so I'll try to be quick, but explain the current law, talk about what other cities are doing, and figure out if we want to come up with our own ordinance to address safety issues with e-bikes and the e-motorcycles. And so I'll start with talking about what the current law says. So the current RCW, it basically just defines what an e-bike is and an e-motorcycle. It doesn't address helmets, speed limits, prohibited locations where you can and can't be. I talked briefly last council meeting about what is defined as an e-bike, and it breaks it down into 3 classes. There's a class 1, a class 2, and a class 3, and it has a regulation on how big the motor can be. So it has to be under 750 watts. And so here's a little breakdown of that. So anything outside of class 1, class 2, and class 3 is considered an e-motorcycle. And the difference between an e-bike and an e-motorcycle is simply an e-bike has pedals and an e-motorcycle does not. Could you? So I haven't launched this. I kind of want to do this for an educational thing for the public. I do know there's confusion with people I spoke to in the community about the difference between an e-motorcycle and an e-bike. And I have seen a lot of these out in the community. And like I defined earlier, the biggest difference is the one has no pedals and one doesn't. The e-motorcycles fall under the law of a motorcycle. So they shouldn't be on sidewalks. People should have helmets when they're wearing them. And they, again, just the same thing as a motorcycle. So an endorsement, have to be 16 years old, helmet laws, and where you can and can't ride. So those everything pertaining to motorcycles is pretty simple in my opinion. The e-bikes is where, again, it kind of gets, I don't want to say complicated, but there's no safety measures in the law. We don't talk about helmets. We don't talk about speed limits, and we don't talk about prohibited locations where you can and can't be. I was in the park Saturday with my wife and almost got hit, I think 20 miles an hour. So the class 1, class 2, they can go up to 20 miles an hour, which I think is very, very fast. And I was in one of the parks this Saturday and almost got hit with one. And my wife's like, well, how fast do you think they were going? It looked like 40 miles an hour. But it was probably 20, but that's pretty fast if you think about an 11-year-old. There's no age requirement with the law, no helmet law, no nothing. It just defines what they are. And so, could you go to the next slide, please? So yeah, so I kind of talk here about speed limits, young riders, inexperienced riders, and how the state law doesn't really address. The state law very much relies on city ordinances for the safety and enforcement side of things. So. It can go back one. So yeah, so I did quite a bit of research this last 2 weeks, and there is cities that put speed limit in their ordinance, as well as helmet laws are very popular. I have a long list of cities that do helmets for all ages, and I have a long list of cities that I won't read them all for the sake of time, but have helmet laws for people that are under the age of 18. And like I said, lots of cities are doing helmet laws for all ages with the class 1 and class 2 e-bikes. One of the things I wanted to talk about with, if we're looking at an ordinance, is like enforcement challenges. And so the class 1 and class 2 and class 3 e-bikes are supposed to have a sticker on them, like classifying them what they are. I think it'd be very easy for someone just to take those off, as well as if we were to look at, for example, like banning e-bikes in our city parks, how hard that would be for an officer to just drive by. The difference between a normal bicycle and an e-bike, how could you tell the difference from a distance? You kind of have to be complaint driven and kind of luck, I guess, out walking around and say, hey, that's an e-bike, you can't have that in the park, if we were to look at banning them in our parks. And so, and the other one would be speed limit. I think that'd be very, very difficult. I think it's a good thing to have, but I think it'd be very difficult to be able to enforce that. Catching a e-bike on a radar or just visually guesstimating how fast somebody's going is going to be very challenging for a patrolman. And so there's a whole list of enforcement challenges that I think exist. Even if we were to put an age on the bikes, how can you actually guesstimate how old someone is riding the bike? Clearly there's common sense. If we said 16 and above, if 11 years on there, that reasonable to stop the 11-year-old. But I think the age stuff could get kind of tricky.
Just ask a quick question. Like if we looked at a speed limit thing and you say 15, like this city of Sammamish did, but they can go 20, are we ticketing these children that go above
so right
15?
now we don't
right?
have.
No, I know, but I mean, I'm saying if we did that, like what happens if you get them on radar and you see that they're going fast and you stop them and they're 10?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
That's
then
a
what?
good question. That's going to probably be talking to their parents. So I think that would fall under, if they're 16 and above, they fall under that like motorcycle endorsement range where we can write somebody a speeding ticket at that age.
Right,
Somebody,
but even if they're on an e-bike that's not a motorcycle,
yes.
but it can still go 20,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So under 15, based on other laws, I'd assume it's just a conversation with their parents. But again, it'd be very difficult to enforce the speed limit as far as catching someone on radar in the park, or if whatever we were to deem a prohibited location to have these. But yeah, that's a good question. What does this? So a lot of cities, like Alfreda is one of them, they have made e-bikes essentially not allowed in city parks and on trails and any city property. That potentially could be something we could look at. Again, I was just in the park Saturday and almost got hit, and I thought 20 miles an hour for an 11-year-old is very, very fast, and they didn't have a helmet. And so I definitely think that'd be something we may or may not want to look at. As far as helmets, like I kind of conflicted on that. I've always thought leave it up to the parents to decide whether you want your kids to wear a helmet or not. But again, 20 miles an hour is very, very fast. And so I think I would be inclined to mimic some of these other cities and have a helmet law if we wanted to do that. So that's, unless anybody has any questions, that's basically all I had.
What about electric scooters? Like my son has an electric scooter that has a max speed of 20 miles an hour too. Now he's too scared to go that fast.
Yeah.
And he wears a helmet, but there's electric scooters, there's electric skateboards I've seen around town. There's that one wheel, I don't know what you call that thing.
Yeah, so technology is getting faster than our
Right.
laws. So
I
I
mean,
even
there's
saw
a whole
surfboards
host,
that
not
have
just
motors on them now and stuff like that that are up in Coeur d'Alene. The Alfreda ordinance does address, they kind of categorize the electric scooters the same as e-bikes, and it's kind of defined in the same manner. And so that's one way we could, if we wrote an ordinance, just kind of lump them into the same definition, basically, because they essentially kind of do the same thing. Just one has pedals and one doesn't. And that'd be something we might be able to look at.
My question kind of goes with hers. I was wondering if we could also lump in like the definition of a e-dirt bike, because I have seen some where they're more styled like a motorcycle, like an e-motorcycle, and some that are more styled like a smaller e-dirt bike. but they can go up to like 28 miles as well. And they sort of look like an e-bike when they're more of that dirt bike style, which I know can be really difficult, but I was just wondering if when we put that
If
description.
it doesn't have pedals, it falls under, and they can go 20 miles an hour, it falls under the law of being a motorcycle.
So if we use that pedal definition, then that would help clear up that definition of the e-bike and the dirt bike and the motorcycle.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point, the confusion of what it looks like. Some of the e-bikes look like
dirt bikes.
straight up motorcycles,
Yeah.
but they do have pedals, and it's hard to see that unless you're right up on there.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
yeah.
So experiencing making rules in, I used to do it for hunting rules. And the hardest thing in the world is rules always are great. It's the enforceability that becomes problematic. We can make a lot of great rules that make a lot of sense in a boardroom, but they can't be applied. I think that if we don't do anything, somebody could get hurt, and we're going to really regret that we didn't do something. I know I would like as many black and white, easy to enforce type of rules. For example, no use in park with an electric bike, I think is a real simple one. If you're doing it, you're going to get it confiscated, and your parents are going to have to come get it.
I'd like to.
Or something like that.
A little
or
bit,
something
because
like
you're
that.
probably going to have kids riding through there on their way to school.
Well,
So maybe
again,
a speed thing
we
would
turned
be
it
more
over to
reasonable?
we turned it over to a group to make whatever the most reasonable, but to keep in mind that make it as simple as possible. One of the things that I thought about when I was discussing this today with different folks was where bike lanes were present and where sidewalks are present. That an e-bike, I mean, it's really easy if you got an e-bike, you're on a bike lane. If a bike lane is present, you're on a sidewalk then, because that's dangerous. That's a pretty easy one for you guys to go, yep, that's a violation. That's a problem. Whatever ways we can make this as simple as possible to be enforced, to get people aware and to make folks think about being safer with them. On my way here today, I had a kid on a scooter pass me while I was driving here to the meeting, cut right in front of me, and then give me the finger when I hit the horn. But that's one thing. I was going 23 miles an hour when that happened. So that was pretty black and white for me on that one. But I'm glad I noticed them, because that could have been real dangerous.
And I think helmets is another one that's
no helmet.
Very, very easy to see if somebody's not wearing a helmet or not, or the prohibited locations. The speed limit thing would be relatively difficult to enforce, in my opinion. Right now, state law is they can go wherever a bike can go, depending on the class. Class 3 is a little bit different, but those are kind of uncommon.
Chief McFarland, if we did go through an ordinance, how would you want us to go through this process? What group would you want to work with? How would you want this done? How quickly would you want it done? If this is something you think would be helpful to safety for.
If I got a directive, I could draft one up myself and present it here.
Have it done here, or go through police committee even maybe first, if it needs to get reviewed, and then come here after fleshed
I don't
out?
think it would take me very long. I was even thinking as soon as next council meeting, I could have an ordinance drafted up that we could look at. And
do you have enough input to do that at this point, or is there any other things we can add for that?
I think community input would be important. I was discussing a lot of people, Abner brought it up, a lot of people's kids are riding them to the park for sporting events and stuff like that. So I thought an idea would be like providing parking or something in the prohibited locations or areas where they could stow the bikes if we had allowed them to ride them there so people could go to their sporting events. I really like the idea I like kids being outside in the sunshine, doing active stuff, nothing against people that like to play video games, but I think it's more healthy to be outside and being active. So I don't want to restrict anything really. But we definitely got to look at the public safety aspect of this. And so from what I've seen with my own eyes, it looks very dangerous and something potentially could happen. sooner than later. So
I think we need to be careful if we're gonna lump e-bikes in with scooters and skateboards and those things and then say not in the parks,
Yeah.
that becomes really difficult then too, because it's saying all of those can't be in the park also. I think some of the examples that you had in this presentation with signage that says, pedestrians have the absolute right of way and different things. Once we do an ordinance that it allows us to put that signage up and hold people accountable to that when they're seen. And I am 100% for helmets for everybody.
Yeah.
I think all people on a bicycle should have a helmet, actually, whether it's e-bike or not. But that's because I'm in healthcare. Once you've seen enough head injuries, you recognize that it's important.
no, I agree. Is there
Okay.
any other
And
questions?
well, I think we got enough comments and from the council that so you could move forward with it. And
Rough draft it up by next time we meet.
great.
Having public
Thank
input
you.
for it is important too, which we'll do, right?
Now we will go to approval of the proposed ASR pilot testing. First of all, I would like to apologize to council on getting this on at the last minute. Going through the agenda this morning, we noticed it wasn't on. It is a time-sensitive issue that we need to address, and so that's why it is on the agenda tonight. With that, Robin will take it over.
Okay, Geosyntec Consultants, if you read through the agenda memo, they have been working with us since 2024. We hired them through an RFP process. They did the pre-design report, turned it into Department of Ecology and Department of Health. Man, I don't remember. And so we got comments back. The original pilot study that we did in 2021 was for a membrane facility. After the purchase of the property up by Lee Road, we now have the space to do slow sand filtration. So in order to do that, Department of Health has requested that we do another pilot study. So they want it to be a scalable study. So Geosyntec is working through the process of what that looks like, what is DOH going to approve as a scalable project, and plan that project. So one of the pictures they showed you was the existing site that we used for the pilot study last time. The pump is still in the ditch, so we should be able to connect with that. I've reached out to the irrigation district to make sure that we can still use that facility, and then we can build that holding space that is a scaled down version of a slow sand bed, and we should be able to start doing that pilot study the end of July, run it through the end of October, and then next spring we can start it up, because that was one of the questions Department of Health had, is if it sits over the winter, because typical treatment plants like this run all year long so that they keep the bio working. So we want to see how long it's going to take to regenerate that in the spring. They gave us a budget of a not to exceed 388,000, and on the budget, it comes out of the water budget, but we do have grants that we've received. So I believe it's the Commerce grant that is going to pay for the full design, or at least a portion of the full design. So this would be paid by a grant we've already received.
Yeah, this is paid 100% with a Commerce grant, 388. We have a full grant for that. There's no match portion.
Does this count as part of our funds for the matching for that other piece that we were talking about that has a couple of $1 million that we would have to come up with out of that whole
Very
20?
possible. Very possible.
For the grant, for the other grant that we're going for.
Right, for the big grant?
Yeah, for the
Would
big
this
grant,
count for
yes,
our
this
portion of
counts
that?
for a portion of that match.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So staff recommends that the city council approve the above budget request for Geosyntec Consultants to complete the slow sand filtration pilot testing.
Make a motion to approve.
We got a first and second. Any further discussion?
Discussion. This, to me, I'm going to vote against this because it just goes to show how askew governments have got that we pay $388,000 to run water through sand and comes out, see what comes out the other end. The farmers around here have been using sand filtration for years. We're not reinventing the wheel here, but I won't do it. That's a hard one to explain to my constituents.
Well, Department of Health won't let us do it for us.
I know,
unless we do this.
it's just
It's not so much us as it is the requirement of the Department of Health. We can't move
just
forward without it.
ridiculous.
a good
Here's
way to
my
explain
fear
it.
too. It probably won't be in my lifetime, but here's what I foresee. We pump it over, filter through their sand. It comes out, they get these results. Okay, we know what to do with it. Now we do the actual project, and as explained to us last time, the water is going into a pond for retention and then going into the sand plots. So this pond will sit there and get algae, get duck poop in it. It'll go through the sand and it'll come out a totally different result than the test showed. So I don't know what we're accomplishing here, but it just seems ridiculous to me.
Any further comments? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So it was 6-1. I mean, excuse me, 5-1. Motion carries. Okay, is there any unfinished business?
That one.
Okay.
Robin, did you get a chance to check out turning from Broadway onto Columbia Street?
We did. And we agree. We looked at, do trucks really need to turn onto that road? And yes, there's a CFN station there. So we are putting together our chip seal and crack seal contracts. So part of that is striping. So when we do the striping contract for those, then we'll include that. And I looked when the state restriped Columbia, they have bike lanes on both sides, north and south. So we have the potential to have a conversation about continuing that bike lane. And so you would have a bike lane that comes from 26 north. And I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. It's just an idea that was thrown out there. And so you have a single lane until after Columbia, but you have the potential to use some of that space.
Thank you.
Can we get an update on the Hands and Paws building?
Yep. So Carmen and I went back and forth multiple times today, getting the final site plan, making sure she has some future plans that she's applying for grants for. So we wanted to make sure that the buildings that are that we're currently designing for, her contract is for 32 dogs, I believe, and she is applying for grants for cat housing as well. So that wasn't on that site plan. So we've added those buildings. And she has some aesthetics that she wants to take care of. So that should be finalized and the contract should go out to bid on Thursday. So it will be before you guys at the next meeting.
Let's have an update on the stoplight at Main and 14th on if we can change those settings on it.
So that one, man, it's timed and it is set up to be that way. We've looked at retiming it or doing it as a sensor so that we can adjust it for that. We reached out to the company that can come in and recalculate that for us. And I know that they're super busy. It's a busy time of year. So we're trying to get them to come out.
Okay.
So that is on our list of things to try and adjust. And it may be we adjust it and when we decided we don't like it and we can go back.
Okay.
But they have to come program it for us.
Thank you.
Okay, any more unfinished business? Any new business?
One, we have our old ladder truck just sitting out in the yard at our city shop. I recommend we surplus and get it to Booker auction, do something with it, and have it just sit there and deteriorate out in the sun. It's the old ladder truck, and we have a ladder truck already available, so. Second, speaking of the stoplights, traffic in this town to me is noticeably more And on 7th and Main, I've actually had to wait through a light because it's been too busy to turn left. So don't be surprised in our next budget session if we have to put up a dedicated left-hand turn light there, an arrow actually.
Oh, 14th.
So
even more.
the other item I have is Mr. Mayor, whereas the state is pretty much a tinderbox now, and we've had several fires already, if you were to declare an emergency and ban personal fireworks over the 4th of July, I would totally endorse that. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other new business?
Sounds like a good way to top it.
That too.
Take it under consideration. I just want to thank city crew for getting those banners up from the Daughters of the Revolutionary War. Those look really nice down our city streets. So really appreciate getting those up at the last minute's notice.
I will pass that on.
Council will also receive the comprehensive plan report and minutes from their last meetings. With no further business, this meeting is adjourned.